This an all-out blitz. Real hard hits, them other podcast trash, we gon' make them all quit. We cover all the topics with intelligence and logic. I know you wanna score, but ID gon' stop it. We from Texas, so that mean that we Texans. Breaking down the X's and O's, our profession. No complaining, just training, you see the progression. They had a Pro Bowl for talk shows, we get selected. We gon' celebrate every win like a birthday. Ray J with the news, first with all the updates. Spin move on the competition, yeah, we juking them. You not really in touch if you not tuning in. This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown, we not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they bout to stampede.
Looks like I am still on mute. Sorry, guys. Welcome to the Texans Fan Battle podcast. We have a great guest for you. It's Cole Thompson coming up. And before I introduce to Cole Thompson, though, let's say hi to Crenshaw. What's up, Crenshaw?
What's up, everybody?
What's up? Cole, say hi to everyone that's listening right now.
I'm not going to say hi. I'm going to say adios. Goodbye. See you later. Take care. Take care. How you doing, everybody?
So before we get started with the Texas news, which obviously everyone's here to listen to, we want to start with some NFL news. So let's play a little bumper. All right. So the first thing up is contracts. So we have a few contracts to talk about. Saquon Barkley got a deal. He was going to get tagged for $10.1 million, but he got tagged. I'm sorry, he signed a contract for $11 million. Justin Herbert got a deal. I was actually surprised with his deal because it's 256, but only about 50% is guaranteed. Or
about 131, 130 something.
131.
Yeah.
131 was guaranteed, which was, I don't know. I mean, 50%. Aaron Rodgers got a restructure, and Andrew Thomas got a big deal. So I'm going to start off with you, Cole, particularly the Saquon Barkley stuff, because I think the Justin Herbert contract was obviously expected. Yeah. The extension with Andrew Thomas was expected. Rodgers obviously is just a restructure so they can have some more cap space. In my opinion, the most interesting thing is the Saquon Barkley contract, because I thought all the RBs were going to boycott something. So what's your take on that?
Well, it's like you get off a Zoom call and you realize, okay, this is not fun. I'm just going to go ahead and take the deal and walk away and just call it a day. Like, there was supposed to be conversations of a holdout. There was supposed to be chatter of potentially these running backs bounding together. And then you hear Nick Chubb actually on, I think it was Sunday afternoon, say, there's nothing really we can do. And Saquon kind of puts his foot in his mouth and says, yeah, you're right. There's literally nothing we could do, because it's a 1-year deal. It's up to $11.8 million in fully guaranteed money if he plays through with all the incentives. It's disheartening a little bit. And the reason it's disheartening for me is not because of the running back in general position. You have to be able to not pay, because that's just something that's a dime a dozen in the NFL. But the reality is that a guy like Saquon Barkley was such a focal point to the offense last year that made this team actually one of the more progressively up-and-coming units in the NFL. I mean, Vanilla Vic was a storyline because of they had to crowd the box to block 26. They had to game plan for Saquon Barkley being an elemental factor of this offense. And when you don't have that, well, now there's questions and concerns on what your value is to the team. Instead, there's also no real outcome for the running back position right now, because everyone's talking about, well, what does this do for running backs to get paid? I think all it does is it says, well, we'll give you the franchise tag, and if you don't want to sign it, okay, if your value dictates that you're good enough to go ahead and be a part of our long-term plan, we'll give you a slightly bigger pay raise for a 1-year deal. That way you come in, we'll make it fully guaranteed money, or we'll try to make it as much guaranteed, as much high as the signing bonus as possible. And then we'll go through the song and dance again, because there's no mediation in the ruling in the contract that says we can't franchise tag you next year. And $10.1 million is nothing. And then you think about the 20% raise that you get on a franchise tag. I mean, we're talking about $13 million for a one-year guy that's a running back that probably after 6-7 years in the NFL is not going to have the same type of outlook and the same type of potential that's been there. So it's disheartening in my opinion, because I would like to see a guy like Saquon get paid only due to the fact that he is such a key factor to this offense. If any other team out there was going and trying to offer Saquon a deal, he wasn't going to get this money. And I think that that's kind of where you're dictating and teetering the lines of how do you pay for a certain player and what exactly you're looking for in terms of the right deal with the right amount of money and the right amount of years in the contract.
Yeah. Crenshaw, let me know what you think about the Saquon Barkley contract, or if any other ones really stuck out with you, whether it was Justin Herbert or Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's a bad deal for the running backs and everything. Barkley is a tremendous running back. Ever since his rookie year, came in and just hit the ball rolling, but he's been injured a lot. And I get what the Giants are saying, like, hey man, I know you want to get paid, but we got to make sure that you're not going to see us, get the deal and not be here the following years. Then you see Daniel Jones get paid. Well, like, damn, okay, he got his money. Why I can't get mine? But I guess they're looking at that Jones going to be here for 3 or 4 years and you might not be. So the running back market just sucks. I guess that's a good thing for us because, you got the guy and from Colts is going to be up for his contract, and maybe he has the same issue. Maybe he holds out, and that's good for us that he's not going to maybe play for them. But the Justin Herbert contract, it was well deserved, and 50%, yeah, that was kind of a head scratcher, for me. But other than that, man, I think Josh Jacobs not getting paid was really, really bad. I thought, he's the heart and soul of the Raiders. They should have gave him a deal, but I mean, that's the Raiders being the Raiders right there.
I mean, it's that you kind of put it on the head right there. It's the Raiders being the Raiders. The other thing that's really funny with that is that Josh Jacobs, if you hear his teammates talk about what this offense will be without him, basically they're waving the white flag before the start of the year. Right. The difference where I think you look at a guy like Saquon and a guy like Jacobs is Jacobs didn't get the 5th-year option picked up when the new management came in. So when Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler said, we're going to take the Patriot way and bring it out west because that's definitely going to work. Let's look at the track record and see what that does. When they did that, they automatically said, we're not fully intent on keeping you around. But that also could be a move made by Mark Davis. The thing that's different between, I would say, the front office and the situation going on behind closed doors with New York versus Las Vegas is Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are coaching for their jobs this year. There's a legitimate cause to think that they're not going to be back in the building next season if they go 3-14, 5-12, whatever the hell the new record is with the 17th game. It was so much easier back in the day. But the new management could come in and do the exact same thing that they just did with Josh Jacobs. And they could say, we don't want to pay for a running back. We like the fact that there's versatility. We want to invest money elsewhere. It's why when you look at New York, the reason they should get a deal done, or the reason I proclaimed, I think the more so they should get a deal done, you're not getting rid of Joe Shane anytime soon. You're not getting rid of Brian Dable anytime soon. There's stability in that front office to where you're betting on a 3 to 5 year window to fix this stuff, where Davis, who has been known for controlling things behind the scenes in Las Vegas for years, ever since his dad died, there's reason to speculate and believe that potentially he could have a say in why Josh Jacobs isn't getting paid.
Gotcha. Well, before we get to the Texans news, there is some funny news that we got from Gambling.com, and they rated the smartest and dumbest teams in the NFL. The Bills were actually rated the smartest fan base in the league. The Giants were rated as the dumbest. The Texans were rated as the 8th smartest. The Colts were rated as the 11th smartest. The Jags are rated as a 15th, so they're dead average. But what I found funny is the Titans were found as the 5th dumbest fan base in the league. And what I have to say is this makes sense, but I want to get both of your takes. Cole?
I mean, dumb's not the right word. I just think that when you look at what they go ahead and boast their chest out about, it's just kind of funny. Everyone's complaining about the whole situation with the Houston Oilers jerseys. It's challenging for someone who was born early 90s and probably you could even say pre-1996 or post 1996 to give a flying doodle about it. Like they just don't care. They don't care about the richness of the jerseys. They've seen the logo on hats. They're like, oh, that's really cool. That's retro. I mean, I should wear that back when it's like 80s day in high school. It's like, okay, slow your roll. It's one of the best logos in the NFL. You need to go ahead and respect your elders. But what I think is, like, they just take things from Houston and they go ahead and they implement in their own culture. Like, yeah, the thing that works is that the Tennessee Titans are an institution that has the Houston Oilers history, but they don't have the culture of Houston in it. So, yeah, you can take the players. Yeah, you can take the name. You can take Bud Adams and Amy Adams-Strunk, but you can't take what happened behind the scenes at the Astrodome. You can't take the memories that were started by Earl Campbell and by Bruce Matthews and by Warren Moon when they were playing in the 80s and the 90s in the Astrodome. You can't take that with you. And the fact that you claim all the time, oh, well, we're going to wear these uniforms. Oh, well, we're going to flaunt out, being Oilers. Like, it's kind of a dumb thing. Like, you had an opportunity to be called the Tennessee Oilers, and people didn't like the name. And then you're like, oh, Titans, that's a good one for us. But that logo's really cool, so we're going to wear it like twice a year and just say that we're on this day the Oilers. Like, today we're there. You could have been the Oilers. You could have been the Oilers to get-go. Like, everyone's like, how can you change names? Like, dude, you were the Tennessee Oilers when you went to Memphis, and you hated the name, and you hated the background, and you hated all the ish with that. So either accept what you are or don't. Like, that's what it is. And like Bills fans, the thing with Bills fans, I just want to bring this up. They are the kindest people that you will ever meet at a tailgate, and they're freaking insane. But I think what's interesting is like, they're so loyal to a T to this team that finally, when the Pagula family bought the organization, they were like, we're going to reward them. We have to go ahead and reward this culture, because there's fan bases out there like the Chargers that every single year are like 10-7, 11-6, and find a way to be able to build a great rapport and have all the money to spend, and you can't get 30% of that stadium filled. And like Buffalo, you're on a wait list to go ahead and get in the season ticket holders market.
Right. They are one of the kindest. I mean, they always donate any single time, no matter what. You can find the Bills fan base always donating. So if not only are they the smartest, but they're also one of the kindest in all reality. Crenshaw, what's your take on this?
Yeah, they are kind. I remember that one year when they finally got to the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor, they donated all those buffalo wings. I don't know. I think it's to the Bengals. They donated buffalo wings. Yeah, man. Their fans are crazy, man, with the tables and everything. And I think the Titans fans are the fifth dumbest or whatever word you want to use, because they live in Nashville, and there's nothing to do in Nashville but be dumb. So I think that's the reason why they do the things they do and nitpick at us and everything. I kind of wish they wasn't in the same division as us, so we'll have to see these guys and remember of what should have been here. That the team should have still been here and not left. But I guess I'm glad they're gone. We got the Texans and make our own history, but we got to make a name for ourselves. Until we do that, they're going to keep with the jokes and the stabs and the backs and everything, and their fans are going to keep saying the stupid shit they say. And of course, and then the Bud Adams drama as well. We don't get into all that.
Yeah, we won't get too much into that. All I wanted to say was I actually agreed for the most part with gambling.com. But let's talk about some Texas camp.
You ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 stick, you can get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you're right.
All right, so let me just talk about something that really matters before we even get to camp, which is we extended Titus Howard. We had a 3-year deal, $56 million, $36 million guaranteed. He reportedly was looking for a $20 million deal, but they eventually settled for $20 million a year, about 18.7 a year. So pretty damn close. From what we were hearing, the front office really wanted to stay in the 15-16 range.
Yeah.
But I think that if he left, the thing is he could have played left tackle somewhere else and made more than 20. So I think the reason that they were trying to, his team was trying to get 20 I get it, because he can play left tackle. He doesn't have to just play right. And he's played left tackle. He's played guard. So I get that. And then we have the entire O-line now is set until 2026. So talking about the Titus Howard extension, and we have a lot of camp news. So I just want to get quickly what your thoughts about the camp news. About the Titus Howard extension, how you like having all the guys here until 2026. What do you feel about this? I'll start off with you first, Crenshaw.
Oh man, I'm ecstatic, man, because you and I was talking about it. Are they going to extend him or not? It's fucked up that they extended Shaq Mason before they extended him and everything. I'm glad it's here. He get a lot of pushback saying that he's not, good at his position, but I think he's a pretty good old lineman. We need that stability for CJ. I think this might be the best position a quarterback has been in Texans history for his offensive line. I feel like that this line could be a top 7, top 6 offensive line. I mean, the way they're getting paid, they should be. So I'm happy, man. Go Titus, man. Let's do this. Just hopefully Kenyon Green could get on the field and not have no setbacks. That's my biggest fear right there.
We'll definitely talk about Kenyon Green in a moment because we have some news for him. But Cole, what do you think about the contract? And do you think it's a fair contract on either side?
I mean, that wasn't what I would probably pay, but that's what the market dictates. And that's kind of the thing that when it goes to the Justin Herbert situation, like there's going to be naysayers and doubters out there, just like there are with Lamar, just like there are with Jalen Hurts after one season, saying that they don't deserve to get paid after just one epic year of production or not being able to make the playoffs. But because it's a supply and demand type of persona, that's what the market dictates. You look at guys like Juwan Taylor, what they're getting paid, over $19 million to play right tackle with the Kansas City Chiefs. You look at Mike McGlinchey, you got a 5-year, $87.5 million deal. Titus Howard last year gave up fewer sacks and fewer pressures than both of those players. And they're making roughly about the same, if not more than him. So that's the going rate for a right tackle. What I like about it is if you're going to keep this Kyle Shanahan style offense, whether it be you keep Bobby Slowick, he ends up making a protege of someone else, and then if he gets a head coaching job, you keep the same install for CJ Stroud. It takes time to go ahead and develop it. Like the one thing that if you look back at the quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan's worked with, from Kirk Cousins to Matt Ryan to even an Aaron Rodgers type S that they've added with Matt LaFleur in a sense, it takes about a year for things to really actually hone in. And the last thing that you want to do is you want to have 4 of your 5 offensive linemen clicking, 1 leaving free agency, and now you're teaching a rookie or a new guy to go ahead and come in right away and deliver at that same expectation. So it's a good move because of the cohesion and the continuity that you could have on the offensive line. It's a fair price because of that's what the going rate is going to be for tackles. And if he has another exceptional year where you maybe you're seeing a little bit more Pro Bowl buzz, or you're seeing a little bit fewer pressures, or you're seeing a little bit more of an uptick in the run blocking, the asking price goes up as well. And then you have to play that supply and demand game to where $20 million for a right tackle seems far-fetched, but that's what it's probably going to cost for you to keep him around in Houston. I also do like that not only does CJ Stroud have great protection up front, but the overall persona of the program right now gives them an outlook for the future to where they don't have to worry about one of the key situations, which is adding in more depth on the offensive line. This is a team that I still think needs a wide receiver. One, I think that next offseason, you're going to have a couple of guys maybe hit the market. They also are going to be able to have, I think, a couple of really good receivers. Like, I wasn't that high on the receiver class this year. Like, Jackson Njigba was good. I thought that was fine. I thought that potentially in the right offense, Quentin Johnston would be good. I really liked Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee. I think I liked him a lot more than most people. But there wasn't like an absolute game changer at wide receiver, where in this year's draft class, there are. And it's not just Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ubika from Ohio State's really phenomenal as a route runner. Xavier Worthy from Texas is really good. Roma Doozy is a name that you probably want to circle on your calendar from Washington. He has all the potential in the world to be another highlight reel player in the NFL. So now your attention can turn to that when it comes to the draft. You don't have to worry about the offensive line. It's about building around CJ Stroud. And look at how teams have been building for the last few years. I mean, Philadelphia last year, they traded away to go get A.J. Brown, and they paid him a lucrative extension. You look at what has happened in Los Angeles for a while, where Justin Herbert hasn't been paid, so you can build the offensive line. You can give them weaponry. You can give out more contracts. You can add more players on defense. It's chump change money right now when you have a rookie quarterback on a deal. So you might as well go just make sure that you pay for all the plethora of talent around him rather than pay for the quarterback while you still have him on a very cheap, affordable contract.
Okay. And now getting into the nitty gritty of camp. So the first thing is some of the facts, right? So John Mechie is medically cleared. I think we all give a clap to that. He beat cancer. He beat his hamstring injury, his ACL. The dude has been through a lot. So for him to actually get through that, I'm real proud of him as just a person. Hopefully he actually gets to produce. But we'll see. But I think that's important to realize. And just from what we're hearing all across from the Twitterverse, from you, from DJ Bienemy, from Aaron Wilson, Cody Stutes, what I've been able to gather, here's the few things I've been able to gather. Then I'd like to get your thoughts. First of all, CJ and Mills are rotating number ones.
Yeah.
And I understand that they're not the only ones rotating ones. We have at the center position, it's not Scruggs yet. It's still Scott Quesenberry. So all over the place. Will Anderson didn't start at the ones either.
No.
And Perryman's not starting at the ones. So Michael Dieter,
that one's not entirely true. They've been rotating him in with the ones. But there were plays where they went to a nickel base, and there was the hesitation between 58 and 6 on the field. Harris was the one that was staying in often.
Okay. All right. So basically, I see the strategy from D'Amico is that he doesn't want to just give the keys to anyone. He wants every single person to fight for their job, and he really doesn't care about draft position, how much you're paying them. They're going to fight for their job. That's what it seems to me. I like it. The only problem I have is lack of experience. Like I think most people would agree that we don't lack talent anymore. What we lack is experience. And if those ones don't have the necessary experience out there, are we doing them a disservice by trying to play this game saying earn your job? What do you think about that?
Yes and no. You watch what happens to Carolina right now, and they basically came out and said, nope, he's QB1. We're not going through the song and dance of Andy Dalton. Andy's the veteran who's here to be a backup. Bryce Young's our starter week 1. It's not that level, but what I do think is it is about just kind of learning how to play with your teammates. I brought this up on a podcast, I think, last week, where I want to be able to see cohesion with every single player in that locker room with CJ Stroud, because you are the leader of the offense. You are the one that is calling the shots on the field. You're the one making the audibles. You're the one that has to know exactly which way your right tackle's blocking while also knowing which route your slot receiver's running. And at the time, you have to go ahead and throw it. You have to be on anticipation. You have to be on the timing. You have to be on the mechanics. You have to be on the accuracy. You have to be on the touch. You have to have all these other nuances while also paying attention to a blitz that's coming up the middle and trying to evade the pressure. So a quarterback's job is to know everything about the offense. And so right now, I also need to know what are the strengths and weaknesses of everyone on said team. So I want to know what happens if, say, Kenyon Green gets hurt during week 2 and they have to throw in Michael Dieter. I need to know what Dieter's going to do on the field. I need to know where are his weaknesses, where are the glaring parts of his game to where I have to now prepare for blitz coming up the middle, bull rush is coming up the middle. How can I better myself to get rid of the ball, feel the anticipation, and build a rapport with those receivers? That's where you're at right now when talking about CJ Stroud and Davis Mills. I want them to know everything about the offense. Every other position is kind of weird because the way that they're trying to be on defense is just versatile. If you really look at the scheme style, and I don't want to give too much information away because I could get in trouble with the team, so I'm just going to keep it as blatantly as bland but open as possible. You cannot be a one-position type guy. Like for D'Amico's defense to work to a T, you have to be interchangeable. So one thing that he preached about throughout all of OTAs is that linebackers, I don't care if you can play Mike. I need to know that you can also play Sam, and that you can also play on the weak side, and that you can go ahead and have delayed blitzes, and that you can make an impact in coverage. And we got to be able to see where you fit in. Jalen Pitre and Jimmy Ward, they're so interchangeable of type guys you're not going to know who's playing free and who's playing so strong on Sundays. Like, you're just going to see the lineup and you're going to go, okay, Jimmy's down low, Jalen's up high. Next play, they're lining up in a two high formation. Next play, Jimmy's up high, Jalen's down low. They have to be able to do it all. And so I think right now, especially at positions that aren't solidified, which is left guard, center, third linebacker. And again, like when he was in San Francisco, there's a guy, and I know that you guys hate them, but there's a guy by the name of Azeez Al-Shakir who signed a 1-year deal with the Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
He had to learn how to play all 3 linebacker spots. And because of that, he was actually voted on, I think it was by Pro Football Focus, as the best number 3 linebacker in the NFL. And so now he's going to get the opportunity to be the number 1 linebacker for Tennessee in place of David Long. Like, you have to be able to accept that change and interchangeability and versatility is what's going to get you playing reps. It's why you drafted a guy like Jared Patterson. It's why you took a risk on Juice Scruggs, because if they do have reps at other positions, the best players are going to be on the field. And the versatility aspect of it is what's going to make this interesting.
All right. So we're going to take a break right now from talking about the exact camp, and I'm going to introduce you to Jacory Nichols. Jacory, first of all, thank you for coming on here. Appreciate it.
Most good.
And a lot of people may not know really about you. They don't know about your private coaching and the brand that you've developed. So I was wondering if you can just talk a little bit about what you do, and then start talking about like how you build up your brand, and also what have you done with Jalen Pitre.
Right. So for the most part, I'm like you said, I'm a private DB coach. You know, I'm based out of Houston. Been going now for about 3 years. This past offseason was actually a great offseason, man. I had probably, I think it was about 30 plus NFL guys that I trained at the defensive back position. So it was a really good offseason. Just speaking on Pitre, been training Pitre for 2 years now. So I trained him going into his rookie year. It was kind of late going into his rookie year. And then this past offseason, we got on it early. I mean, right after the season. So, man, it's been a great journey working with Pitre. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of, for the most part, I know our biggest focus this past offseason was basically just putting him in those positions to where he has to react. If all you guys know how Jalen is, he's real big on instincts. That he's great. He's athletic. He can run. So basically, man, this offseason was really just getting him to the point to where just put him in a situation to react. We did a lot of covering drills, just worked on more body control, getting in and out of his breaks, and just putting him in those middle of the field situations and letting him go and track the ball. So really just general stuff, man, but doing it at a high level. I'm real high with intents and how I train. So it's been a great offseason, man. If you talk to a guy that's been at one of Jalen Pitre's workouts, I mean, it's sweet feet P. I mean, it's everything. It's no wasted movement. I mean, everything's on a string. He's ready to go. He's fired up about the year.
All right. So before I let Crenshaw and Cole ask you some questions, I have one particular question, which a lot of people are asking me. Now, first of all, I have his jersey up there, and I got it for the minute that he intercepted Deshaun Watson. I was at NRG, and that interception made me so happy. I had to get his jersey. Right. And now I think he should have been All-Pro. I think that, the 5 interceptions, 140 plus tackles that he had were excellent. Now, the feedback that I get when I tell this to most people is, well, he missed 36 tackles. Right. What have you been working with him in order for him to clean that up?
I think just for the most part, I say this when you got a rookie coming in. I mean, you can talk about any rookie. They're going to make mistakes. And I think for the most part, when you got a guy like Jalen Pitre, it's either one or two ways you can play that safety position that he plays. Either you can be scared and timid and not make any plays. Because, he had over 100 plus tackles, right? With 5 picks. If Jalen didn't play the way he played and let his instincts roll and just play with a chip on his shoulder, he wouldn't make that, and he wouldn't even be talked about for All-Pro. On the other side of that, when you play the way he played, missed tackles is something that definitely needs to be cleaned up. But, he plays so fast that it's kind of easier said than done, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So I think for the most part, going into the training side, it was more so just body control. You know what I'm saying? Understanding that, I'm going to let my instincts, take over my game. But when it's time to really shut down and for the most part, he's definitely a hard hitter. He can definitely lay it. So I think for the most part, we just cleaned up on some body control stuff and just put him in situations and understanding that not every tackle is going to be that big hit, and just keeping our head up when we're making our tackles and stuff like that. Really, really simple stuff to where, I think that transition from college to the pros is one of the things as a safety that's a little different. When you had at Baylor, a school like that, Big 12, I mean, you can go and just, head down and just dive at someone's seat. Now you're going to NFL with these guys. Everybody, for the most part, is elite. You got to keep your head up. You got to be under control. So just on the training side, man, just body control.
All right. Crenshaw, do you have a question for Jacory?
So what do you think Pitre's season is going to be this year? You think it's going to be even better, the same, or is this production going to dip a little bit?
Just how Pitre is, man. Training him, he's one of the most humblest, successful. Like him not even getting all pro. He wasn't really worried about it. A situation that we was kind of joking around about. But I think for the most part, it's definitely going to be, and I know, man, it's going to be, 2 times better just because he's one of those guys that, he's done really good things year one, but in his mindset, he hasn't really done anything. You know what I mean? So with that type of mentality, like I know when we first started training, this was before OTAs. I mean, we probably had a workout at like 2:30. Well, I'm always getting to the workouts early, so I get to the workout about 2 o'clock, and Jalen's already in there on the ladder. It's not something he's on the ladder. He's getting warm. I usually get all the guys to warm up. He's already warm. You know what I'm saying? It's at 2 o'clock, before OTAs. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about stuff like that, man, it's really like the sky's the limit. Most humble. Like I remember when I first met Jalen, I didn't know who he was at the time, and he was just humble, man. Like, he was like, yeah, man, I went second round, blase, blase. But to answer your question, man, his year is definitely going to be definitely a better year. You know what I mean? Definitely just how he worked and the commitment that he took this offseason, knowing, some of the things that he had did. And it's always for him, it's about helping the team. So when you got a guy like that that's humble and that can really play ball, the sky's the limit for sure.
Awesome. Cole, do you have a question for Jacory or a topic to discuss regarding either Pitre or DBs in general?
Yeah, Jacory, I just need to do me a favor and help out VT for a second, because if I get the fact that you have the likes of a guy who is making phenomenal plays. I mean, I watched his tape coming out of Baylor. When you have him playing in the star position for Dave Aranda, the way that the Houston Texans are going to utilize him are completely different, especially when you're down in the box versus being up high.
Right.
But part of the reason why he has 36 mixed tackles is because of a safety's not supposed to be finishing with 147 tackles in a season. Like, that's a problem right there. That's a huge problem right there. But, Jalen was talking to us today at practice about how he spent the summer working out in Hawaii and he was doing drills with angles and pursuits. Right. When you look at what he does, especially when it comes to the angle perspective, when you go through training, do you notice something about when you have players training in the sand, because if it is a little bit heavier on their feet, for them to be able to have to break down their hips and be able to take maybe smarter, smoother angles to the ball, or where they would be able to pursue, to where you watch him play, a lot of the times the missed tackles aren't because of arm tackles, it's because if he's over pursuing.
Right. So I think that's a key point too, just because, like, I call it for the most part like that banana. You have Jalen at a point where if he's up top, he's always kind of running that alley. So he kind of takes an angle of not more so. So a good angle would be just straight down and just meeting the player where he's going to be, and a bad angle can sometimes be overrunning. And I think sometimes he gets into that overrun mentality. And I think sometimes he gets to the point where he kind of bananas, to where he don't take a good enough angle. He shortens his steps. So now he's kind of playing from behind. So now that's when you dive, late and stuff like that. So really just cleaning up those angles is going to be tremendous. But my thing is too, like, going through a year one, in Jalen's spot, coming in, immediate starters, stuff like that, you kind of got to get used to that. And that may take a year. You know what I mean? And their defense last year, I watched for the most part every game. I mean, I just think that what they was asking for from the front seven put the safeties and the DBs in general just in a harder position for us, tackling and covering. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit more complex. I talked with Jalen. Now it's a little bit more simple, straight to it. His job is a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? So I think just that in general, and just clean up the front seven and how they plan things, is going to be able to critique and really help them out as far as the back end for what type of angles they take, on ball carriers and, receivers in general.
You also got to look at a guy like Jimmy Ward, and Ward's one of those interchangeable players, kind of like Jalen, where Jalen, if you asked him to line up in the star, he's going to find a way to be successful. If you ask him to line up at strong safety, he'll find a way to be successful. I think the most important thing that you look at, though, is the interchangeability of how DeMeco likes to run his defensive players. There is not a set strong safety, free safety. You got to be able to do it all. So what does it mean for a guy like Jimmy Ward, who has kind of a same storyline where he started near the line of scrimmage and then worked his way back, then had to work his way forward again? What does that do, not just for the confidence, but also for the ability to help a guy like Jalen very early on adapt to the nuances and the things that especially DeMeco's looking for?
I think what DeMeco is kind of bringing in too is kind of like you said, that interchangeable. So now you get to a situation to where instead of one person just playing a spot, now you have to know both. And I think for the confidence part of it, it's just going to get you confident and more relaxed as a defensive back in general. You know what I mean? When you just have a straight job, hey, we're gonna go out here, you're gonna do this every play. You know what I'm saying? That kind of puts you in a box to where you're kind of like, man, I may want to try. I want to do something different. I want, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like for Jimmy and Jalen, they're going to be so interchangeable, and they're going to be, on the same page to where their confidence is going to shoot through the roof because they're going to know that you can do anything. You know what I'm saying? You can do this position, you can do that position, but just to put those guys into an interchangeable position is really, for the most part, in my opinion, just going to really set the standard and the potential of how that year can go straight through the roof.
Okay, and just real fast, you probably saw a little bit of the Texans film last year, especially late down the stretch, because that's where there were games like very early on. I think it was like, it wasn't the Bears game. I think it was the game right after the Bears game, the Denver game, where I think he had the most missed tackles of his season. But like then you also look at the season's end, kind of the same thing. When you're watching his pursuit angles, are you also noticing that the linebackers aren't holding up their end of the bargain? Because you never want to see a third-level defender having not only to come down, but also be the guy that makes missed opportunities because of their over-pursuing, mainly due to the fact that linebackers aren't lining up at the same spot.
Right. So when you really, and that's a great point, when you really just look at his missed tackles, right? And I haven't went back and looked at every missed tackle, but I can bet you a lot of money that a lot of his missed tackles, I mean, you can put anybody in that situation and probably 7 out of 10 guys probably missed that same tackle because it's not easy. You know what I'm saying? When you at, Jalen's at 12 to 15 yards and you got to scream down in the hole, the running back bursts through the hole. It's no linebacker, no nothing. I mean, it's open field. These running backs are elite guys. Like, so for the most part, even if I'm training a running back, I mean, you better make him miss. You know what I'm saying? Look how much room you have. So I think when you just look at, he had, 30 plus missed tackles, but if you go back and watch those tackles wasn't easy to make. You know what I mean? So I think for the most part, when you talk about the linebacker position, if the linebacker was, and I'm not putting that on them, but if he was present, or if he was somewhere around, he may shake up the running back or something like that. I'm pretty sure that tackle would be easier, because if I'm at a safety spot and I'm lined up and this hole shoots completely open, and now between me and the running back, it's 7 yards, I'm going to scream down as well. So now that body control to where I got to scream down, settle my feet, and now he has a two-way go. He give me a 1-2 jab, spin move, hurdle. I mean, I would tell anybody, like, good luck. You know what I mean? So I just think for the most part, man, those missed tackles, it's definitely some factors that go into it. And one thing me and Jalen talked about is just kind of maybe scooting down a little bit. I think the position he's playing now and what he's been asked for now, he doesn't have to be as deep. You know what I mean? So now taking him from 14 to walking him down to about, 9 or 10, close to 11, that's going to make that tackle a lot easier as well, because now I don't have to run as much. So there's a lot of factors that's going into those missed tackles that he had.
All right. So I'm going to switch a little bit back to camp news because I want to just finish off some of the things, because I know a lot of viewers really wanted us to talk about why the defense won the day. And I know, Cole, you were there, and there's a couple of different plays that were talked about with a lot of people tweeting out things that, Stingley got beat and also beat Tank Dell. And then we have reports there that basically that there was one play from CJ where he landed an amazing throw to Nico Collins. And then that was really the best play of the day. But for the most part, both CJ and Davis Mills were not completing a lot of their passes. Give us a little bit more about that. Your take.
It's not that they weren't completing a lot of their passes. It just was very mixed play. Like, so you'd go from 7-on-7 and you'd be going about 7 of 8. And then you'd go to team 1 and you would be probably about 3 of 8 or 3 of 9. And then you'd go to team 2 and you'd have one really exceptional throw that was on a 15-yard comeback. And then, of course, the play that we saw with the Nico Collins that's now on Twitter and it's like making headlines, it was an excellent job of not only CJ baiting Derek to fall for the move at the line of scrimmage because you see him pump fake, but also it was a really good route by the likes of Nico Collins. And I think that the one thing that you can appreciate is that deep ball accuracy was a huge strength last year for CJ at Ohio State. And that's not going to be a problem when it comes to the NFL. The problem is he's got to build that rapport with the receivers because it's very easy to go ahead and say, look, I have Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith-Njigba, Eme Akeba, Cade Stover. Julian Fleming's another guy that's like going to find a way to get drafted like 3rd or 4th round. Like that's how loaded the offensive personnel is. So they had a good rapport when they were in Columbus. He's just got to be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, the best way they can put it was it was a murky day. Like it wasn't a great day by any quarterback, but it's nothing that's like very unintentionally horrendous to where you can't see the mental mistakes and can't fix this on the fly. It's very correctable. Like everything that I saw from both Mills and from Stroud is very, very correctable. I think the other thing that you got to realize though, you're always looking at different things. Like they're running individual drills at one time when you're running sometimes scout team or when you're running 7-on-7. So not everyone's going to see the exact same thing at the exact same time. You're also looking at different spots. You know, you could be looking at the likes of just the wide receiver play and you couldn't be watching CJ's footwork or you couldn't be watching the likes of Davis's footwork. So those are things that you just have to kind of take with a grain of salt. It's day one of camp. I've always kind of noticed that especially when you have more veteranship, especially and with guys who maybe aren't just drafted, but also guys just how they adapt to the defense, because this was the same thing last year. The defense is always ahead of the offense. Like the defense always seems to be ahead of the offense throughout everything that goes on. So I wouldn't take too much of a grain of salt with it. I literally would just say, it's day one. You know, it's good to see them out there. And again, this offense is very complicated. Like anybody who has seen a Kyle Shanahan offense knows it takes plenty of reps, plenty of live reps, and it takes a couple of plays for you to mess up in a game before you actually end up mastering it. So anybody out there that was going to say, oh, CJ's going to win the job day one, he's going to look incredible. Like they're not even in pads, man. Like nobody knows what they're doing. If they're throwing against air basically half the time. So it was good to see some bit of preparation, but also, I take everything with just 50-50 hindsight.
So before I give this to Crenshaw, I just want to shout out here something from Cody Stutes and see also Crenshaw if you have something to add to this. He said, CJ is accurate with this passing in drills. There aren't flutters. There aren't many, if any, route adjustments by pass catchers. He throws a catchable ball. It's consistent. So, I mean, he is saying that his CJ's mechanics and his passing ability is on par. Why exactly, the defense is winning could be a lot of things. As Cole said, I mean, yes, the defense usually is faster than the offense. Plus, there's a lot more talent on defense than offense, just in terms of receivers versus DBs, and so forth. So, what do you think, Crenshaw, about all the reports saying that the defense won the day? Do you think that there's an issue? Or do you think this is common and we should be still hyped up for the team? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, it's common, and that's good. I want the defense to be the best anyway. Let the offense take its time. And also, CJ didn't get all the first team reps. I don't need to see Davis Mills get no first team reps. We didn't seen that. We've been there. We've done that. Just say he's a starter, and let's just get this ball rolling right here. But I'm excited. I'm happy, and I think the defense is going to ball out, man. 32 last year. I think we're going to be at least top 14, 15 this year, man. I can't wait.
All right. So a couple more things from camp. We saw one of the things was Davis was thrown to Robert Woods. Yeah, I know, Crenshaw, you don't want to talk about Mills at all, but he is important, right? Just in case something happens, we do need to have a backup quarterback. Now, we saw two good things, one good thing and one bad thing. One was that he threw to Robert Woods. He rolled out and he threw a pass and Woods just missed it. Another one, he threw to Woods and Woods caught it. So what do you think this is a question to all of you here. Do you think, and I know it's hard because we're not trying to base this off of two plays, but do you think Robert Woods is going to be a real asset here, or is he going to be a liability? We know what happened we saw him in Tennessee and he wasn't great. Obviously didn't have great quarterback play, but he's also an older wide receiver. We have 3 rookies trying to get game time. Do you think that Woods is going to see a lot of time? Do you think he's a liability? Do you think he's an asset? And it's a question for all 3 of you.
I think it's day 1 of training camp and that you're over exaggerating everything. That's personally what I think.
Okay.
Woods is a dude who I think the best part about him is that he does have versatility, being able to play in the slot. He does have versatility to be able to play on the outside. I think last year was the most reps he ever took outside for Tennessee. So it opens up your offense to have a few more conversations about what you want to do with that slot position. Now, Nico Collins is going to be your X. Maybe you find a way to see a guy like Tank Dell work outside and not let his weight and his height bother him. Then that maybe allows you to put Robert Woods back inside. Mechie's a slot dude. I'm just going to tell you this right now. I watched every single one of his reps coming out of Alabama. He took 88% of reps inside. He's a slot dude. So he's the guy that you're banking on. The thing that you want is just veteranship, number 1, and number 2, I think that physicality. And the one thing that's really important for a Kyle Shanahan offense is the ability to block. And you look back at the time that he was in Los Angeles, one thing that they loved about him was he was a blocker. And I think that's the main thing that you're looking at here. Can he be an efficient blocker? Can he be a guy that makes a couple of plays per game? He's never really been a wide receiver 1. He's always been more so a wide receiver 2. I think you're looking more so for Nico Collins to take a step forward, because Nico Collins also is a draft selection of Nick Caserio. So any single time that a player doesn't pan out underneath the GM, that's a bad look for the GM. When it's a free agent signing, I mean, there's a reason a player gets let go in the offseason.
So so I got a question for you guys. I know it's early going in, but if you had to say, who would you say right now, it's who's right now the receiver 1? Who's the guy? If it's 3rd and 12, we need a play, we down, I mean, I know it's early. It's early as crap, you know what I mean? But who is that guy that we looking at like, he's probably
right now? I think it's Nico Collins. I mean, Nico Collins, his issue is that he hasn't been healthy in the past 2 years. It's not necessarily been just ability. His first year, he wasn't the best at his route running ability, but I think he worked on it. The last year, again, he's missed too many games. He missed 5 games his first year, 5 games his second year. If he's able to stay healthy, he can really be a threat. The problem is, do we know he can stay healthy? Because he lost weight. He lost some muscle his first year. He looked like he may have lost even more weight. And the real question, if he can stay on the field or not. I mean, it's a similar question to how Stingley is going to play, right? Is Stingley? We're not doubting Stingley's ability. We're doubting his ability to stay on the field. Same question for Nico Collins. So right now, if Nico Collins can stay healthy, he's got the job to be the X, in my opinion. Crenshaw, Cole, what do you guys think?
It's Nico. I mean, right now it's Nico. And the thing is that the way that you're trying to see the rapport between last season, Davis and Nico, and then right now what I've seen early on from CJ and Nico, that's what you're looking for specifically, I think, going into the year. And again, I think that it's always important to realize when you're a player that's signed as a free agent, maybe on your last leg, versus a player that hasn't been able to stay healthy, but also a draft selection, that's a knock on the GM, because the GM is the one that's scouting you. He's the one evaluating you. He's the one that also has been saying, because of his background when it comes to scouting, he knows what he's looking for in certain players. That's a knock on him, but then there's a guy like Robert Woods.
I want to say Nico, but I'm going to go with Tank Dell. I think that 7-1-3 connection would be Joe 3rd and 12. Get the first down, move the chains.
Hold on.
Yeah. Jacory, you can go ahead, man.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm from Houston. I've been knowing Tank. You know what I mean? Been watching him. I'm excited I'm excited. I was wondering if someone was going to say, the rookie, Tank, but I don't know. I can't really say, if not or if is, but that was just one of the ones that throw in the air like, whoo.
Well, I mean, my issue with Tank Dell is I don't think I'm going to question his production because you can be quote unquote just a slot receiver and still get a massive amount of production.
Right.
What I do question is whether he can play the X, because how can he beat press with his size? One of the things that he had an issue with was drop passes. And typically that was when he was going on man coverage or press and he would just get bodied, right? He would get hit and drop the pass. And an X receiver typically has to have that size and that ability to hold on to the ball through contact. And I don't know if Tank Dell has that ability because he's going to be the smallest guy on the field every single time he's out there.
He's not playing X. If you wanted to play somewhere, he'd be playing Z. If you wanted to play one of the spots, I think Z. I think what's going to be interesting is that the way that Bobby Slowick's offense can be run and the way that they ran the offense last year, especially with George Kittle, Dalton Schultz might end up being the guy. He might end up being the most productive playmaker on this team, mainly because of what he can do on third down, mainly because of how he can move the sticks. And they have formations where they will utilize the tight end in that slot position. So if you do have questions when it comes to John Mechie, you have questions with Tank, you have questions with Noah Brown. Brown works better on the outside. You have questions with Robert Woods' injury. And you like what you see from your tight end room. Now, right now, there's a lot of questions because Teagan's on the he's on the PUP list. Brevin Jordan's in for a breakout year. And he doesn't really offer anything as a blocker. But if they find that other tight end, you probably have opportunities to put Dalton Schultz in the slot and make him work with them.
Okay. All right. Well, I think this has been a great episode, and it's coming up on that hour mark. So I'm going to start off with Jacory to just tell us where we can find you on social media and what you have cooking and what you'd like to tell everyone about.
Right. So for the most part, I mean, my Twitter is Jacory Nichols. So it's my name, Jacory Nichols, Nichols. That's my Twitter. And then my Instagram is at Jacory_one-way. What I got coming up, man, for the most part, obviously for me, training is going to slow down just because we're in season. So for the most part, man, my biggest thing now is just kind of staying in tune with the guys, checking on them during training camp, just kind of see their regimen, see their daily routine, and just going from there, man, watching their film and watching what I can on them and just giving them pointers. A lot of that stuff that, I may post, teach tape clips on my Instagram, stuff like that, just coming up for the brand, man, for the most part, just getting ready for next offseason. I do pre-draft training as well. So just really getting ready for that and then going from there and just keeping everything rolling. But, I'm blessed. This offseason was a great offseason. So, next one, it'll be even bigger.
Awesome. Cole, can you tell everyone how they can listen to you, your social media, and what you got cooking?
Yeah, you can listen to the podcast form of Just Saying It unless you want to wake up at the crack of dawn on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Audio Boom, or wherever else you get your podcast listening systems. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Cole Thompson.
I'll tell you, I don't have to wake up at the crack ass of dawn. I'm up a lot because I just don't sleep, and everyone knows that. Crenshaw, what do you got cooking?
You can find me at Fifth Ward Crenshaw. And quick question, Mr. Cole. Next year, wide receiver class, what do you think of Troy Franklin or Johnny Wilson? And you can answer this after the show, because it's be up against time. Just throwing it out there.
I have not watched enough of Troy. I will say Johnny Wilson. There's not many receivers that are 6'7" and move like him. Like, that's the thing, is that the way that I can explain Florida State this year is you're asking Jordan Travis to be a point guard and just get the ball down low to people around the rim. Like, that's what you get by adding in a Keon Coleman and I'm blanking on the tight end that they just added, Jakeem Bell and a couple of other players they have. When you just have that size, you throw it up and just say, here, go get it. Like, your job is to facilitate the offense. I need to watch more of Wilson. I thought he had a very good year last year. I think it's going to be really intriguing to see how he builds off this year, especially with Keon Coleman coming over from Michigan State. But if you can make it work, I mean, there's not many 6'7" wide receivers in the NFL, and there's not many good ones for that matter either.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I'm Brown Chubby Bear. I was hosting. Normally we have Matt Briggs. He'll be back next week. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to argue tonight about Texas camp. I will be on Twitter Space sometime, probably in a half an hour, And we'll talk about what we've learned from not just this show, but everything that we've heard from everyone that's been covering camp today. So you can find me at Brown Chubby Bear, and you can find my article that will be posted tomorrow on Fan Battle Sports. Until then, go Texans.
This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown. We not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they about to stampede.